All right, as soon as it goes down, you guys are good to go.
Hello again. Okay, this is the Finance Committee meeting, and it is March 31st, 3 p.m. We have 3 topics to cover today. First 2 are going to involve Chief, the Lexipool, and the fee that we can charge for the Mayor's Court Computer Fund. And then the third topic was Building Department. We're going to cover the first 2 so the Chief can be here, and then he can head on out. And if we'll start with the Lexipool first, and Chief, if you want to provide.
Everybody got the documents? Rob knows everybody got the documents that he sent?
Yes.
Okay, do you want me to go over what we, yeah. Okay, this was talked about back when we did the permanent improvements meeting, but it was decided that we were going to use funds from the traffic enforcement fund to obtain the Lexipol. So that's still the plan. Initially, if you remember back in the permanent improvements meeting, Tony was wanting to use some of the money from the traffic enforcement fund to help buy the new cruiser, and I said no, we can't do that because we have plans to use some of the funds that's in that account for Lexipol. And I did check with Tony at the end of the year. We had between $30,000 and $31,000 in the traffic enforcement fund. I have since, in the last 2 months for January and February, sent up probably between 22 and 2,500. So there should be probably 33,000 in there to date. And this, you can see what the initial cost is on this is $18,285. That's for the installation, the training for the system, as well as the first year subscription fee. Now our insurance company, the Ohio plan, the first year will reimburse us 50% of the subscription fee, second year 30%, third year 20%. And of course, it's Lexipol, something that the Ohio plan definitely has pushed for the agencies that they insure, which is most of the agencies in Hamilton County, to go to Lexipol. It's basically a somewhat an insurance policy in itself for any police agency. If we get involved in some kind of a lawsuit, there's training that our officers will get like 10 minutes before they start their shift each day. They log on. There are certain topics that they train on that's covered in our personnel or in our policies and procedure manual. So it's really something that we're really behind time. We really should have probably had this a few years ago, but we've held off because of funding. And now that we've got the money in the traffic enforcement fund, I've decided that for this year we'll use some of that money for this. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, we can't hear the questions.
Okay. So it's not a question, Kelly. It's just I'd asked Chief that question about, he sent that cover sheet that says we got 50% reimbursement for the first year subscriptions, 30% on the second year subscription, and 20% on the third year.
Yep.
But that's just on the subscription alone, because the first year cost the big chunk of that is actually the one-time startup cost.
Yeah, like 11
Yeah.
something. Right?
So,
11.
out of that 18,285, 11,939 of that it will not have a reimbursement. It's just the 6,346 we'll get half back.
Right, so the subscription fee alone, not the,
So that was just a clarification to
okay,
make sure that we're all on the same page about that. So Chief did go look at that, and I'd asked the question also, does this impact our liability premiums at all? Do we get any benefit from that? And he said no, but he said Ohio Plan, what they're doing instead is doing this whole 5% discount and things like that to encourage people to use that, but this doesn't impact our liability insurance premiums that we pay to Ohio Plan.
okay.
Any other questions for Chief?
On Lexipol, a couple questions. Number one, what are they doing in that first year fee for that implementation, the 12,000? Are they giving us equipment, or is it just training, or?
It's for them, it's for, Joe, it's for them to build the system, and to, obviously install it and to, train our people so that they know how to use it. Like I said, there's an ongoing training module that comes with this that, it helps us with, to keep our, officers trained on, different aspects of our policies and procedure manual. And then
So
what
do the officers use for that training modules? I mean, are they looking at a computer screen, or?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, and we've got the computers that can do this right
Yes.
now?
Absolutely.
Right, so there's no additional equipment costs.
No, sir.
All right. Then my other question is there anybody besides Lexipol who does this process?
Not, I'm sure there's probably somebody else out there, Joe, in the country, but in this part of the country, Lexipol is pretty much the system that, that's universally used, throughout the state of Ohio. And like I said, if you go on our, the Ohio Plans website, they actually have a dedicated space there, about Lexipol. So it's something that our insurance company definitely wants us to have. So, but to answer your question, I'm sure there's somebody somewhere else in the country that probably has something similar to this, but I'm not aware of anybody in the really in the state that I know of that uses anything other than Lexipol.
Okay.
And I know Lexipol's the only one that the Ohio Plan does the reimbursement for. There's not another option with them as far as the reimbursement.
Let me ask you this. Some of this, is this being covered by your asking questions to the solicitor now? I mean, what this is talking about is monitoring legal judgments and other things. Are we going to save money by not having to go to the solicitor and asking them questions?
We could. It just depends on what what the question is. I mean, we could possibly, with the information that we have through Lexipol, it may answer questions that we wouldn't have to make that phone call about. I can't say one way or the other, but it's possible.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Okay.
Kelly, did you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, and Chief asked my 2 sets of questions. So I would move that we vote on this to determine to, write a committee report recommending the money be spent out of the traffic enforcement fund for this, because it's exceeding $5,000, particularly that first year, but even the ongoing costs are still over 5,000 or 6,400, so roughly. So I move that we vote on this.
Second?
Okay. All those in favor of recommending this, say aye.
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Okay.
Since you're voting now, we don't have each year a committee to pay the subscription.
No, because, right, because it's got the term here. It says for the period here, so. Yep. Okay, so that was the first topic. Second topic, I'm going to try and recap, and Bill and Chief, you correct me if I'm wrong. Thanks to the help of our Amberley Village trainer here, we're getting to learn more and more about some of the opportunities that exist. So turns out that there are two different fees that we can charge for people who are ticketed. Again, I forward this information to you guys. There's a $10 fee for computerizing the office of the clerk of courts and a $3 fee to computerize the operations of the court. I checked with Chief Hines, and he said we are currently charging the $10 fee, but we're not. Okay. But we're not charging for the 3, is that right? Or okay.
So we need to supplement your ordinance to bring it up. And since you already have the ordinance for the 3, we need to go ahead and do the supplement for the 10.
Okay.
The 3 and the 10 are both in the ordinance.
I believe you.
I really can't hear what's being discussed here.
Robin?
So the village ordinance, from what I found, says that you are able to charge. Your ordinance is written, and don't ask me which ordinance it is. I can search under it for the computer fund. It's a $3 charge. There are 2 different computer funds. One is $3, one is $10. Amberley Village only charges the $10. We've had it since I learned about it. It's been many years. My ordinance, I don't know if it's in the packet or not. I gave that to them. Okay, so our ordinance is there. You can see how that's written. Ours is for the $10. When I researched through your ordinance book, I put in computer fund, and I found that you have the one for the $3. Now, presently, they've been charging $10 for it, and it's honestly water under the bridge as we're making changes in the court right now to correct everything. So what my suggestion is that you go ahead and either supplement if you can, and I apologize, I'm not on the administration side of writing the ordinances, but you can either add an ordinance in for the $10 or you can supplement your ordinance. The writing should be pretty clear from the MOS bulletin that is attached with that. It does specifically talk about that you can charge the 3, and then if you need more money, you can charge the 10. I don't think it matters one way or the other how you write it. You can just simply mimic the wording in that MOS bulletin. I would have to go back and look at my I've had it so many years, I'd have to go back and look at it, but I highlighted the paperwork here for what it has and what it can be used for.
Yeah.
All right, I'm a little confused now. So what are we doing in the court, mayor's court, as far as what are we charging today? Just the $10 per ticket?
Yes, right now we are. That is an
Okay, and we have the opportunity to go to $13 per ticket.
correct.
Based upon what's allowed by, I guess it's state law is controlling here?
That is correct. The state law allows you to do it.
Okay, so that's the first question, where do we go from $10 to $13 for, per ticket fee for these computerization charges? And then it sounds like secondarily, we need to clean up our ordinances to reflect whatever we decide today,
Correct,
or whatever decided by council in a couple weeks.
correct.
Okay.
So is it 2 separate fees so that when we charge these fees, they're listed as a $10 and a $3, or we just put it through as one $13 charge?
It will be your fines and costs will go up by that $13. It'll go to the $13.
Uh-huh.
And I apologize for not having the knowledge since we only use the 10 in my Baldwin. The nice thing about going to this Baldwin, that all of your fines and costs are all going to be cleaned up, and so much easier for your finance people to see where your money's coming in from your court and where it goes out. So I'm going to guess that it just goes as a computer fund of $13 as long as your ordinances speak to that, But again, I only have the 10 and I'm just not familiar with an agency. I can get that answer for you and get it back to Chief Hines to find out from a court who does charge the 13.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I can put that out there.
Okay, thanks.
One quick additional question. What's our volume of tickets a year?
Ranges between 1,000 and 1,300. I actually think that it may increase some this year because of the new K9 unit. I think there will probably be some additional citations issued because of the K9 unit. So, but you know, a good number, Joe, is 1,000 to 1,200 probably.
All right, so we're only talking about $3,000 increase in revenues. With this
Correct.
process. All right, got it.
The other thing, I was reaching out to Eli about this, and that's great to hear the BGI will help us with this because it sounds like the computer fund, I look at what in our financial reports, I'm like, okay, I see one number one year, I see a different number the next year. And so that's really great to hear the BGI will help make sure that it's really clear about.
Everything is done behind the scenes. So when they're building this program, I'm assisting and helping send everything up. And without having specific fines, I'm actually kind of mimicking what Amberley Village has done to make it simplistic, to be able to get the system built quickly to get it in. The RCIC system is great, but it's, for you hearing OVIs, it's going to be a huge asset. It's now going to take your OVI funds, making sure they go in there. And again, I can't speak to OVIs. Amberley Village doesn't hear OVIs. Everything is done behind the scenes. So when she puts something in based on the ordinance number, Baldwin has already built in the fines, the costs, what goes to the state, what goes to the county, what goes to the village. And then at the end of the month, at one push of a button, and it keeps track of that every time she gets in there. At the end of the month, with a push of the button, Eli and Tony are going to have one report that's just going to basically, it's actually the council report. It's going to divide every penny out to where it goes in the village, the state, and the county. It's going to make everything so much easier for your court clerk.
And within the village, we have different funds. We have the traffic enforcement fund, we have a computer fund, and so.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with your traffic enforcement fund and where that goes. So what I see on your mayor's court right now in the cash book is simply your computer fund. I see your credit card fees, that type. It's going to list out your drug fund. It's going to list out your computer fund. It's going to list out your convenience fee, which is what you're charging on your credit cards, so that your finance can take your convenience fees and turn them right back over to pay your bank fees. The bank's charging you for those bank fees. The traffic enforcement fund, I don't know what that.
What that does, Rob, is that's the grant that we are part of. So that overtime that's paid out comes back in from the grant and goes into the traffic enforcement fund. It's not tied to the
Okay, not the
mayor's
card report.
You'll get a check out of Blue Ash for the OBI
Right,
task
that's
force,
right.
and that goes separate. That doesn't have anything to do. You're strictly with mayor's court when it comes to this.
And those funds go in that traffic enforcement fund, and they have to be used for stuff that's traffic enforcement related, such as the Lexipol, because it's tied to traffic, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're talking about the fines being in the program. You mean after
The
the
fines
fine
are
is
in.
set?
Yeah, the fines are in the fees can be set by the mayor, so like a warrant fee.
No, I
and
know,
whatnot.
but she
And-
was
and
saying
The fines,
fines.
right? I didn't have a good feeling. The payout slip that you guys had was one piece of paper, and it just gave a number and what the cost. And there was I couldn't quite break out there. We are mandated by Ohio Revised Code, the state auditor, the state treasurer, and you're mandated on how to break out your state cost. So there's a state general fund, there's a victims of crime fund, there's an indigent fund. Now, with you hearing OVIs, there's all other fees that go along with those OVIs. I'm not familiar with those. I don't deal with those. Anything above that, so you're built in, like for us, let's just take $100 fine. So if your fine is $100 for speeding, 49 of that those are costs. 51 of it goes to the village.
Okay.
And so, but out of that 49, 10 of that is your computer fund. So that does come back to the village.
That idea, what I'm wondering is the magistrate, at the time that he hears the case, that's what the fine.
Oh,
is.
the magistrate can set the fine anywhere up to the maximum
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
So if it's a minor misdemeanor, up to 150, if it's an M4, up to 250, exactly. He can't go over that.
I mean,
No one can.
it almost sounded like you were saying within the Baldwin program or something, the fines.
That's for the
are all-
payout. Those
Are
are
already in there.
your payout fines.
Yeah, okay.
Your payout fines are already built in there.
I got you.
The OBIs that we hear that they don't hear, you know, the magistrate can fine up to $1,000 on those. And can actually, you know, assess jail time. No.
No, you guys,
Yeah, first.
it goes downtown.
Any other questions on the fee? So again, we're focusing on the fee right now. This is helpful, good learning as we go through this. But, so the fee, again, to recap sort of what Joe was saying there, where the decision is, we're collecting 10 today, we can collect up to 13. That's one part. Second part is, we need to clean, regardless of what we decide there, we got to clean up our ordinance because it's only written for 3 and we're collecting 10. So we need to clean that up. I would move, well, first, any other questions? I want to make sure any other questions are on the table that Robin can help us with all her esteemed experience in this area.
She certainly does sound extremely experienced.
Nothing more from me.
She is the mayor's court clerk that trains a bunch of other mayor's court clerks in Hamilton County. So she's definitely an asset to us in making these changes
Yeah.
to better have our clerk's office run more efficiently than it has.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing
We're
that.
appreciative of that for sure, what she's doing for us.
We should give her a day or a key to the village.
Yeah.
So Kelly and Joe, you guys have any questions?
I don't, not on that.
Joe?
Nothing more from me.
Okay. So, I would move that we vote to, well, the first, I'd move that we vote to go ahead and increase from 10 to 13, that we collect the full amount that we're allowed to collect for the computer fund.
Yes, I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Second part of the finance committee report that we need to write up, that I'll send to you guys on this draft, is cleaning up the ordinance then too. We need to clean up the ordinance with that. I don't think we have to vote on that per se. That goes with just, no, if we want to go to 13, we need to get the ordinance written that goes associated with that. So
Cool.
I think those are our first 2 topics. Was there anything else that we're missing, Robin or Chief, that we're missing? No? Okay. You guys don't have to hang around and listen to the rest of our conversation. So thank you. And Robin, thank you again for all the help you're giving us. I appreciate it.
I need 30 seconds to give Kelsey her last drop.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hey, Rob,
Yes, Marcy.
I've got a question unrelated, but would it be okay to ask you now, just since I have you? I knew I'd be seeing you.
Sure.
So I'm on the tree board and we've been doing a tree survey. And part of my area is over by the tennis courts.
Uh-huh.
And there's a big section of tree lawn that has no trees, basically. Is that by design?
Which part is it? I'm sorry.
If you're on the west side of the tennis courts, Plainville side,
Yeah.
there's areas where there's benches, I guess, for spectators or people waiting,
Yeah.
but there's no trees in there. There's an obvious gap in our treescape.
Yeah.
Is that by design? Or would trees be undesirable or desirable, or do you know?
No, I don't think they would be undesirable as long as, if they go straighter up, because if they start to spread out,
Yeah,
because I know exactly where you're talking about there, where the bench is and stuff, that's outside the fence. So, as long as the tree goes more up and down, that's fine. It shouldn't be an issue at all for the courts.
okay, I just want to make sure before I put something in there about it.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thank you.
you're back. Kelly's back.
I'm back.
Okay,
I got 3 hours till we start again.
good.
Mm.
So next topic, third and final topic, is the building department. I'm going through the list of things that I'd written as the follow-ups from the last meeting that we had on this. So get a copy of the XPAX contract. Kelly gave that to us. Were there any questions about that? I actually had some questions, but one of the questions I had, Kelly, is do they charge in certain increments? So they have the hourly rates that are in here. Are there certain, do they charge in increments? You know, like Ed charges in
An hour.
So they just round up. So if they spend 10 minutes on a project, they charge us a full hour?
Do you want me to try to negotiate down to a half hour? I can ask. Doesn't
Yeah,
hurt.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to ask. It'd be nice to. I mean, we don't have to go as far. Again, Ed goes at 6-minute increments, and so I don't think we have to be that fine. But
I'll see if we can do a half an hour.
Would it be helpful if I look?
Oh.
Would it be helpful if I looked at Bill Fiedler's hours, for example, or in terms of how many times he does them in 15-minute increments or half an hour increments?
I have one of his invoices. Eileen, give me a second.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like he does do in 0.25 in quarter increments. It looks like because he has 0.75 in here and he has 0.5.
Half
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah, he does 15-minute increments.
Yeah. Okay.
That would give us a sense of how much money we might be kind of overspending.
Yeah, I think so. Again, you know, I obviously, Kelly, if you can check on that and let us know if the finer we can be, the more more accurate the final cost will be in terms of that too.
Absolutely. I will do that as soon as we're done.
Okay. Any other? I think that was the only real question I had on the contract.
Yeah, I mean, it says 1 hour minimum for inspections. So let me ask Jer when we're done. I'll ask him if that's
But yeah, I'm just wondering if plan reviews and all the other kind of stuff, you know, if they were doing things like that.
Oh, Kelly, if I remember correctly, though, on the inspections, I think the reason for that hour minimum is that he was including drive time in there.
Yes, he says small amount of travel time.
Yeah.
And just a side note, Martin Simon, our plan reviewer, also charges in 15-minute increments.
Okay, that's good enough. Thank you, Arlene.
Yeah, it just calls out 1 hour minimum for inspection. So I don't know if we can do a half hour for plan review. But let me ask.
So, okay, great. And there's section 12 of the contract talks about reports. It sounds like so they it says upon request they can give us a monthly report of the prior month's activities. So it sounds like that's separate from the bill because they're going to send us an invoice, right? They're going to send us a bill that says, okay, here's that amount of time. And they'll break it out because Bill and you and I have talked about this. I mean, one of the concerns is making sure how good are they doing at estimating their costs, So will there be a way to sort of check that, make sure that what they're charging us is in line with what they estimated on the front end, or?
Well, absolutely be a way to check that. Yeah, but there'd be a direct way to check it essentially. And especially once we begin to initiate the contract and go forward, I mean, within those first couple of months, yeah, I would think we would scrutinize the bill. It'd be a simple matter of matching up projection to actual time bill.
Right.
So that's going to be, I don't know if the bill will have it broken down by project or not. And so that's why I don't know if this report is what gives us the ability to match up project estimate to project actual,
I would think.
Let me ask him for a sample report.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great.
I just want to throw this out there. Now, there's a monthly report that needs to be submitted to the Building Board of Records, and they will do that for us. Eileen, are we currently doing that? Do you know?
Yes, I do that.
Okay. But I'm guessing this other report that we're referring to is just a report for our purposes that I'm going to ask him about for a sample.
Yeah, so yeah, it's number 12.
Okay. I
And
don't
it
have.
says report of the
hold on.
it says report of the prior month's activities. I just don't know. You know, maybe Kelly, if you can ask him too, what's an invoice look like and what's the report look like? That'll help us know if it got, which one has the data we need to be able to confirm that estimates are close to actuals.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
If we continue, just a little additional that might be helpful for you guys. If we continue with our same model, currently we do not tell applicants the total fee for the permit until we know how much time was spent in the plan review. So we would know that ahead of time, and so there's no estimation involved there. But the estimation comes in with the inspections. With the XPEX model, they would have to, like you're talking about, they would have to give us some kind of estimate of how much work it would be to help us figure out a fee.
Because my understanding with this model too is we collect the money and then we turn around and we're paying XPEX their portion of it, type of thing.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and yeah,
We have to have a way to match it up.
yeah, to be able to
Oh,
confirm.
absolutely. And I don't think that's a tough question to ask them.
Yeah, so if you just, what's the sample invoice look like? What's the sample report look like? That would be great.
Okay.
Number two, in the contract, it had the rates, the hourly rates, so we've got that. And Kelly clarified that if there's any zoning reviews, that's at that $70 rate for the certified building official.
Right.
And then Kelly also provided the materials, the fancy brochure.
Yeah, right.
They
Do you have an
provide,
extra one?
yeah, that talks more about what services they offer and things like that. And then the note here talks about how many people, 18 different individuals who are certified. So that met my needs. Joe, I don't know, you'd ask some of the questions as well around that. Does that meet your needs? Joe?
No, you're
on
muted.
mute.
Joe, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
I was favorably impressed that they've got 18 people on staff, and that kind of answers my question about the capability to handle another client. So sounds like they've got some scalability there, and they probably could hire a couple more if they get more business. So I think, you know, that was favorable. The brochure that was provided by Expects, and it didn't look like they spent a ton of money on it, so I thought that was good too.
You know,
I had a.
the more they pay for marketing materials, the more we pay them, right? So
I agree. Yeah, we
And
pay
I
less
had a
for
nice
service.
conversation with Jerry yesterday, asking him very specific nitty gritty kinds of questions, but I found out that they have some scalability of services as well. They have the ability to do our rental inspections if we would so desire.
wow.
And that would go a long way towards, we've never had the capacity to do that for, I think, probably decades. So that's something, that's a real plus if we wanted to go that way. The second thing they're able to do for us is alleviate some of the concerns we have about control over our historic district. And he said that that's actually not a problem at all. All I have to do is give him a list of addresses for everything in the historic district and all of our historic landmarks. And so if they get, once we approve it from a kind of an ARB perspective and send it over, if they have any revisions to any plans, they will not approve it. They'll send it back to us first to make sure nothing's changed.
Okay.
So the loss of control issue is kind of a moot point now.
That's awesome.
Go ahead. Bill,
Oh.
I'm sorry, I had trouble.
Yeah, I mean, what Eileen is saying here essentially is that if we get an application for a building permit within the historic district, Eileen looks at it, it basically passes it off, you know, that there's nothing in the ARB, or there's not a zoning issue kind of a thing. And when XPEX gets the plan, they of course will approve it based on what she has sent. But during the course of the project, should the contractor or the owner come back and essentially say, hey, you know what, I've been kind of thinking, I want to make a couple of changes here. XPEX will catch it. They will be aware that this is an application or a permit within the historic district, and they simply are not going to approve changes to the plan until until it comes back to us or back to Eileen for an additional review as to whether or not it's in compliance with the historical district codes.
Cool.
It was great news.
Yeah.
Great news.
No, this is a real plus. This is a real benefit.
Okay.
I'll tell you, the one thing that's impressed me overall is the ability to communicate with these guys. I mean, at no point in time have I reached out to Jerry and not instantly been able to ask him a question. And I don't know, I mean, I know you talked to him once, Eileen, and I would gather that you felt the same way. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. He spent a half an hour with me on the phone, short notice. And then the next day I had a follow-up question and he picked up the phone right away.
That's key to me. That's another key piece of this.
And he also had a knowledge of the nitty gritty. He started out doing zoning officer type work and has come up through the ranks. So he knows what he's talking about.
Good.
Okay, so the fourth thing we had on our list was the current backlog, how long it should take to clear, the plan to clear, and Eileen had that in on her one of her documents she sent to us. So it was on page 3. But it says backlogs of permits to create is 0, state reports due within the next week is 3, closing out permits is moderate amount, and Eileen, it looks like you estimated roughly 20 hours of work. However, the scanning required to get everything in the system is still 30 to 40 hours of work.
Minimum. I think the best estimate would come from Bob Van Stone, who did a lot of work volunteering to scan documents last year. And I don't think he hardly made a dent. So when I say scanning, I'm just talking about current permits going back about 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about all the old plans and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Go
there's a
ahead.
question asked about when was the last time our building department fees were increased? Did we find, I didn't see that in the documents. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't put that in there. February 14th, 2011. So 10 years.
Feb
We've made
2011.
minor changes here and there, but the basic fees have not changed.
Okay. And then a 2-year history of building permits and zoning permits and how many issued. So Eileen has provided that as well in that in the 4-page document she sent to us. You can see those numbers. And how much we're averaging, you know, a little under 1 a year. It looks like it's about 232 a year is what we're getting on average. So.
Hey, where was that document, Rob? I think I'm missing that one.
Eileen sent it out to everybody earlier today. She sent 3 documents out to everybody.
2 emails. I sent it, Joe, I sent it to both your council, the old one, and the Mariemont email. I didn't know which one.
Is it a separate tab with that volume, or because
It's a Word. The first email she sent out has a Word document, and the other 2 were Excel spreadsheets.
All right, I'm looking for them right now as you speak. So let me see.
And that was earlier today, right? I got a lot.
I got the email with 2 Excel files.
And then before that, it was earlier in the day. She sent was the Word document.
And when was that, about 11 or something?
Oh, crap. Sorry.
I can look to see what time I sent it, Joe.
Yeah, I'll find it here in a second. There was a Word, that's an Excel file too.
Okay.
I think it's, Joe, if it's in Gmail, it's the same. Actually, like for me, it was in Gmail. It's the same, you know, it shows up as the same email. It's just, it's been appended onto.
Yeah, the trying to use the web version of Gmail is not the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, I guess if you open up the recent one and scroll down.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. But agreed, I don't like the web version.
the second.
All right, I'll find it later. I don't think it's gonna, we need to hold it up for today. I think we just.
Okay. Well, she and Eileen also provided a breakout on a dollar basis too. So, I think
And-
the highlight she called out here was 40% of the permits are building permits, but they generate 80% of our revenue. And then the other 60% are just the zoning permits, which are things like fences, she wrote here, fences, roofs, driveways, tree removal, that kind of stuff. So thank you for pulling this together, Eileen. This is very helpful data to have.
Oh, no, you're totally welcome. And just so you know that the, oh, sorry, what was I saying? I was looking for the document to send you and I got distracted. The dollars that I have in there are not going to match your revenue dollars. This is not revenue. It is simply the total amount of fees that came in. It doesn't necessarily mean when they were realized or if somebody hasn't paid and I have them on my I'm going to go after list.
Call that some other kind of list in this house.
Oh, do you? So those are just the fees.
I wouldn't
For
want to
every
be on that
permit.
list, Eileen.
I'm sorry, what?
I wouldn't want to be on that list for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that checks the box on 2-year history. Number 7 on our follow-up last time was Bill got the electronic version of the current fee schedule and he emailed it to Joe, and then Joe took it and put it into this format for us, which is actually very similar to what Eileen had, because she also did a document that has the fee schedule and then sort of like the new fee next to it.
I did not receive Joe's version. So if you want
When
to
you
send
sent it
that.
last night, Joe, was that?
Yeah, I just responded to your email, so.
Yeah, so it's very similar to what you have. It's just
Okay.
literally the list of all the activities and the fee. So it actually is the electronic version, and Joe, that Bill gave to Joe, and then Joe just added to the right who performs in the future, which again is essentially, I think, what this document that you sent to us is about, like who does what activities now and who does them in the future type thing.
Correct. So it just seemed a good idea to keep the fee schedule kind of separate. I reorganized it. I've been, you all have been wondering where the original came from. The original I got when I started this job was on paper, and I very quickly put it in Excel. Been working with it since, but I organized mine in terms of building permits at the top. All of those are things that XPEX would do. And then the next section is zoning, and that's what would stay here if we hired a zoning officer. And then the third section is administrative, that would, for the most part, stay here.
Okay. So how about, guys, Joe, that's one of the Excel spreadsheets, so you should have that one then. Do you want to go through this document then?
Yeah, that's fine. But again, it's the same thing that Eileen put together, just trying to figure out who's going to do what in the future. So
Actually, I'm holding up Eileen's document because I like how she broke it out into 3 groups. It's like
yeah, that's fine.
building, zoning, and then administrative. So she helped separate the activities out.
All right. And Eileen, I just found your Word report. So
Oh,
I'm
good,
all caught up with you.
great.
So again, what I'm looking at, what I think would be good for us to go through right now is the title says Village of Mariemont Fee Schedule. And this is the one Eileen sent. It was one of the Excel spreadsheets.
Okay, got it.
Kelly, you got it?
Not the one that says responsibilities of the building department. Oh, fee schedule. Okay.
Yeah, fee schedule.
Da, 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 da.
Because it's got in there who also. So I think that's a chance for us to sort of maybe get 2 birds with 1 stone type of thing.
Got it.
Yeah, what I haven't done for you all yet is delivered the kind of fee comparison and where we might be able to increase fees. So that's still on my to-do list.
Okay.
Well, one of the things the Bill, you and Kelly had talked about, I think for the expat, anything that's expats related, we're not going to have a flat fee. We're just going to have an hourly rate, and then we'll wait when somebody submits something, then there'll be a quote that comes back.
It's on a pass-through basis.
Right.
It's on a pass-through basis. When XPEX receives the plans and they initiate plan review, plan review, and then depending on the scale and scope of the project, how many inspections are involved, and then how much administrative, they're going to put their seal on it, that kind of a thing. They should be able to provide us with a fairly detailed estimate of their time involvement for any given set of plans or project.
Right.
And they would pass that number to us, and whatever else we would add for zoning, that becomes the price of the permit.
Right. So where I'm heading with this is all these flat fee numbers would go away, and we would just replace it with either $70 per hour for certified building official, 65 for plan review, 60 for building
We
inspection.
would obviously make the applicant aware that
Yeah.
that it is based on an hourly fee structure, and depending upon the scale and scope of your particular project.
Right. But I think you'd want to at least let them know what the hourly rates are too.
Yeah.
So again, what I'm saying is, right now we've got this stuff that has all these
Yeah.
fees, and it's like, no, we're going to simplify in that
We're gonna
sense.
simplify that in that sense.
So anything that involves XPEX will just,
I can't hear you.
so anything that involves XPEX, so we're going to, so Bill, we just got a note that says your internet connection is unstable. So if we lose you,
Read into that what you will.
yeah, so what Bill was saying is anything that has XPEX as the provider, we're gonna move away from having a fee that's like, here's a minimum and here's the amount, dollar per square foot or whatever.
The whole square foot thing.
It's gonna be dollar per hour, and there's three different, is from their contract, there are three different potential rates. It depends on what level of involvement. So it's letting residents know, you'll get a quote. You'll get a quote in terms of here's what the estimated cost will be once the person's had a chance to review the plan and give an estimate. But those 3 hourly rates will be applied to whatever work XPEX does.
Okay.
And additionally, in fairness, obviously to the applicant, we should also basically have, language in there that would point out, if you miss an inspection, if you need an extra inspection, the county works the same way. There's obviously additional charges for that. And as long as we let the applicant know, how it's going to work, I really think this is a fair system.
Well, do we do that? We're doing that now, right? I mean, if somebody does a revision, okay, never mind.
I don't think so.
If they, sorry, two questions, two pieces to that answer. If they do a revision to the plan and it has to go back to Mr. Simon for review, then yes, he charges for that. But we don't bake it into the fee for Bill if somebody misses an appointment or, he charges us for it, but we don't pass that on to the applicant.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so like you said, there's sort of like just disclaimer, for lack of a better word, disclaimer about if there's any changes or emergency stuff that has to be done.
Or that they just miss a scheduled
Yeah.
appointment. That happens.
Yep.
Or if they need an emergency inspection, they got cement coming at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they got to have those footers looked at, and they
Right.
need to buy out there like pronto. Well, you got to pay extra. The county charges like some ridiculous fee for that. I
Plus,
think XPEX would only basically charge the hourly rate to come out and give you a quick inspection.
There's an emergency fee.
Oh, okay.
It's like $75. So
Oh,
it's not
okay.
a lot more, but it's $75. So, no,
In here somewhere, it's outrageous.
okay, so yeah, we'll add some kind of disclaimer on that about changes, misappointments.
Wait, a quick request here. This fee schedule that you sent, that shows the fees from the past and then to be determined on the new fee. Can you
Yeah.
put the counts in there about how many of each one of these things we had in
Sure.
2020? You just have to move your file over and it'll give us some idea about the magnitude of changing one of the numbers, how much we might be talking about increases in revenues.
Yes, absolutely. I already started that with the bottom part where I put recommendations for stopping permits. I reran the numbers and put in zeros for that. So
Right.
I can do it for
And
the
I would
whole.
do the same thing on those responsibilities, because it gives us some idea of volume for each one of those. you know, if we could tie that to the activity from the actual permits in 2020, it'll give us some idea how much, the amount of work there are for each one of those items listed as a responsibility. Now, some of them don't have a fee or a permit attached to it, but, you know, most of them
Yeah.
will. I mean, and so it gives us an idea how many, what sort of volume by each one of those responsibility items. It's not going to be perfect, but I think it'll give us some order of magnitude.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list, and I think there's definitely some things that I would have concrete numbers for. And anything that's permit related would have a dollar amount.
Right.
But there's like the first two things on the list are phone and email. And honestly, that takes about 50% of my time. It's amazing. And I did actually come up with some estimates about how many we get of those a day. So I will put in whatever I can.
Okay. I mean, again, it gives us,
Yeah.
it helps understand the what we're trying to replicate here in the future.
Absolutely. Yep, I can do that.
So going through the building section, at the top of that fee schedule item. So it seems like, again, I'm looking at most of these things. It seems like these would be because it says X-Packs or in-house. Seems like most of these would be X-Packs, right? Or are there certain things that?
Yeah, in-house was, I thought you all wanted to know the difference if we kept everything here in-house, building commissioner, planning, and review. And so that's all that is. But
Okay.
it sounds like y'all are pretty close to wanting X-Packs and outsourcing this. So you can ignore the in-house.
Okay.
At the top, you know, anything in the middle section where it says in-house, that's what a zoning officer would have to do.
Okay.
So I can rewrite this just to say X-Packs if we want a version of it that's a little cleaner.
Yes, that would be great. That's fine. And then let's going through the zoning. So guys, I'd like to go line by line if we can, just to make sure let's align to what, you know, some of the stuff that Eileen's laid out here. So again, accessory structures less than 200 square feet. So we're saying that does not need X-Packs for their involvement. Is that, and that's consistent with what today? Well, today do we do that way?
Yes, actually, plans for garages have to be reviewed. Plans for a shed or a playhouse or a treehouse do not.
Okay. What?
If you want to build like an accessory shed in your backyard, you still have to submit a drawing, correct?
Yes, it's a little loosey-goosey, so you can't just say shed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some sheds where no, you wouldn't need plans. And there's some where you would that are bigger, you're building it yourself,
Right.
as opposed to the prefab things. You don't need a permit.
No, the prefab things I understand, but
Yeah.
I do know that there's certain, you know, setback requirements on where those things can actually go in the backyard. And, you know, on some smaller backyards, you know, we have that thing called the required backyard, you know, which limits the square footage. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so there would have to be some review on some of that stuff.
Oh, I was talking about plan review, Martin Simon doing a plan
No,
review.
I just meant, yeah,
No, oh yeah, I
the
have.
old days, Don would at least look it over, make a determination as to whether or not, you know, you're planning something too big for your backyard.
Yeah, no, that's what I do. They don't get, nobody gets a permit for anything unless the setbacks are correct.
Well, it's not just the setbacks. It's the square footage, the footprint of the building itself.
I know, that's part of what I do.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So so again, so accessory structures less than 200 square feet it's in-house today, and it will continue to be in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Doors replacement. Eileen, you recommended we just stop the review of that? It doesn't.
Yes, because there's no building involved, so there's no plan review. And in terms of an inspection, you know, Bill just goes and looks at it and says, oh yeah, sure, that's fine. And there's a lot of communities that don't require permits for door or window replacements, as long as the opening hasn't changed. Same thing with siding, replacement siding on a house. A lot of communities don't do that.
Okay. Driveway replacement or enhanced expansion, you've got in-house, and I'm assuming that's today what's happening too?
Correct.
Call out, how about to simplify this, just tell me if any of these are a change versus what, today. So fencing is in-house. Is there something about height? I thought somebody said there was a thing about height, right? If it's above a certain height or?
Yeah, height's one of the zoning requirements that they have to abide by code to get the permit at all.
Okay, so that's in-house, stays in-house.
The
Any,
only one that really changed was I added in a second line for rental inspection because we have two scenarios, one where the landlord requests it or we go because the tenant moved out, or the version where a tenant calls us to complain because there's problems. And currently we're supposed to charge 25 for each, as we do not charge a tenant for asking for help. And if we need to, maybe come through with some kind of pass through to the landlord. That's a recommendation there. Everything else is the same. It's in-house. We've been doing it in-house. We would continue to do it in-house.
okay.
I like quick question.
Yeah.
What order of magnitude do you think that people aren't following getting permits? I mean, as far as how many permits are we not or requests for permits are we not receiving?
That there's no way to tell. I thought about that because you asked that question in the last meeting, and I guess I liken it to any kind of crime. The police aren't going to know how many crimes are happening that no one's reported. So we're kind of in the same boat. We've got John Schertenberg running around out there all day, and he'll call if he sees something. We get notices from OOPS and IBI about work being done. And so I will check that against the permits that I have open or the applications that I've received. And so that would tell us that, okay, somebody has gotten OOPS out there to draw on the cement where not to dig. And you're like, okay, what are they digging for? Trees is a hard one.
Help me understand, there's really no penalty if we catch them? They just have to
There
give
is. Doing work without a permit costs you double.
Okay.
Sometimes too, Joe, neighbors, it's just, if you see your neighbor doing something and you're wondering what's going on, sometimes they make a call.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've had several people call about trees and they're like, oh my gosh, my neighbor's taken down their tree. And do they have a permit? That doesn't happen very often, but it does.
I bet the trees is a big one.
Yeah, it is. And so I forgot to say, my recommendation for trees is that we don't charge at all, because I think it's important for us as a Tree City USA to be able to keep track of our heritage trees that are coming down, the ones that were part of our planned community, and they were planned, thought out by species and spacing and different species on different streets. And as we lose those, we have to be cognizant of replacing them. So I think it's important we're aware of what's happening, but I don't think we should charge for it. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to tell us.
Okay, you're saying no charge, but are you saying still you need a permit to do it? Because the idea about getting the permit is so that we can make an assessment as to whether or not you're just whimsically or capriciously taking down a tree versus needing to take down a tree.
Yes, that's one of the requirements to get the permit for a heritage tree. That's what's the 25-inch diameter or more?
Yeah, for a heritage tree, but right. the other thing is it's 12 inches in diameter, 5 feet up.
Yeah, that requires a permit. But the 25 inches in diameter and above is a heritage tree. In order to cut one of those down, you have to have an arborist report saying it is diseased or unsafe. And they also are supposed to tell us how they're going to replace it. It's not a requirement, but it's highly encouraged. One of the things I thought of, a lot of people it's kind of appropriate not to immediately replace it in the same space. You got to let the ground kind of settle. And so, anyway, we're getting into the weeds here.
We are, but Rob just raised a kind of good question. If we do away with the fees on trees and somebody takes down a tree, you know, a 12-inch tree or bigger without getting a, how do we,
Oh, that's,
what would the penalty be?
well, that's the same thing for any permit where you do work without a permit. It's, oh, you're right, double. So
You
we
double.
would have to come
Yeah,
out.
you set a separate penalty
We would
amount.
just do a minimum. It's all right. We would do a minimum penalty.
I mean,
Yeah,
and actually, it might encourage people to actually do it if they know it's zero to put the permit in,
Yeah.
and $150 if we catch you do it without it.
Exactly.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
You change the behavior by penalizing the bad behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not a fee, it's more of a fine.
And
Right.
serious incentive.
So I have a little information to share. I listened to your last meeting and there's a question raised about the SAPs who are paying for tree permits. And I'm one of those SAPs. But the reason I even was aware that we needed a tree permit is we had somebody out to look at a tree to prune it, and they basically said it's not salvageable. And they let me know that I needed to get a permit. So there are tree companies that know that you are required to have a permit in Mariemont.
Well, and maybe it would be a good idea to basically send something out to all the tree companies that we can get addresses for, to say, hey, you know, just a reminder, you need to get a permit before you take down any trees or prune trees. You know, it's the same thing I say, you know, with the leaves in the street. The landscapers are the ones that are putting the leaves in the street. All we need to do is tell them that there's a price to not doing it right.
Yeah.
But
One of the ideas that Don and I had was similar around fences. All of the fence companies know that they have to have a permit. They all know that, but they don't tell the owner, and many owners don't know they need fence permits. And so the owner is in a kind of a legitimate, I'm so sorry. And we have to pay them, we have to charge them double for doing work without a permit. And we were thinking about recommending strongly to those residents that they pass that fee off to the fence company.
I agree. Deduct it from the payment. I agree.
Okay, so we're going on the weeds here a little bit.
I know we
Yeah,
are.
so let's go through zoning again. Anything that says stop, does anyone have any issues? Let's do this. I'm going to try to accelerate a little bit. So Eileen's laid this out. She said everything that's in that column that says in-house was in-house before. Well, let's take a second and a minute to talk the rental inspection, but otherwise in-house or stop. Does anyone have any issues with the stuff that's got stop next to it?
Well, I guess the fact that we have like window replacement in the historical district would be different than just window replacement in general. But
Correct.
so that's obviously something that would be covered, not just a blanket.
Yeah, this doesn't, this is just permits. It doesn't matter where. Anything in historic district has to go through a step first before they can get a permit.
Okay.
Okay, and then within the rental inspection section, XPEX or in-house, and so do we want to go ahead and use XPEX for the doing the rental inspection?
I would think it would be good to have it kind of like one point person and then trying to figure out another way to do it. I think XPEX could do it. And then
Yeah,
again, if we're not paying anything for it and the cost is just passed on to the landlord, then, you know, just.
Yeah, so I would agree with doing having XPEX do it instead of in-house. Let's just have XPEX do it.
Yes.
And you know, so let's finish with this part of it, and then we can come to the fee section a little bit, maybe later. So now we're down to administrative. So Eileen, I'm assuming all this was in-house as well today, or is there any, the plan review, obviously, if it's building related, it would be XPEX.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess
that's what that's referring to. Correct.
I mean, sorry?
That's what that's referring to. Nothing other than XPEC type building
Okay.
review.
And so would that be true also of the temporary certificate of occupancy? We just go ahead and say XPEX does that?
Correct.
Got it. So in anything that has XPEX then in this will also, the new fee will just be, let's just put dollar per hour, okay?
Mhm.
And when we have the new fee, instead of for XPEX, just say dollar per hour, and it'll depend on who's doing the work, which one of their 3 different levels of certification is doing it, and the size of the job.
Right.
So everything else is all in-house, and that would stay in-house. Okay. And Eileen, I'm assuming, so you had this other one, so I'm assuming these are the sort of the same? You had the 2 spreadsheets?
No,
Is
actually,
there some other part of this then that we need to cover that was not covered in this?
I guess I wouldn't do it line by line in this meeting. I think that would take too long. So maybe if you guys want to look it over, and then we can revisit it, call and ask questions, but it's simply a list of the breakout of what I do every day, or periodically. I just wanted you all to get a sense of what happens in the building department that is not necessarily related to permits. So in here, because you last time you had asked for what other duties are there besides permits. Kelly, you had mentioned the CRA. And so I've got some of the breakouts of the stuff that happens after the permits are done. We've got CRA, ARB, Planning Commission, the communication with the residents. That is the biggest part of my job. And then, in here, things like knowing the code, researching the code for all the zoning questions, heights, setbacks, ARB, and then other things like managing the website, updating the forms. So there's just a great deal of work that is happening today. And I wanted you all to have a sense of that.
Okay.
That's it.
But the things that are uncovered, when you have the column that says uncovered, then the 3rd column.
Thank you. So we have what the first column is what it was before Don retired. And currently this is what I'm doing right now and what I can do with the time that I have. And uncovered is, just what I don't have time to do. And then my estimate, just this kind of idea of how things would split with XPEX combined with 20-hour-a-week zoning officer. You'd still see a great deal of work that we wouldn't have time for a zoning officer that was, I'm not sure what y'all have in mind, whether you were thinking somebody 15 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week. So that last column is really, really rough.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I read it right, there are some parts that we need to identify who should cover it then, right? If it says uncovered, we need to.
Correct. Anything that says uncovered, it would be a zoning officer's responsibility. All of that would be in-house. Otherwise, I just went ahead and put XPEX. I guess you all could talk about different options, whether you get a zoning officer that's working more hours, or I'm not sure what else. I just wanted you to know.
Okay. And then Eileen, you mentioned also fees. You've got some fees, proposed fees potentially for new fees. And then some are still TBD. You mentioned earlier in the meeting, you're still working on some of that, or?
Correct.
Okay. Because again, ideally, it would be great if we could have a full recommendation to make the council for April 12th. The next council meeting is April 12th.
That was my plan. Yes, I want.
Okay.
Have that.
So sounds like we'll need to set a reconnect to give you a chance to complete the TBDs and the new fee you're proposing for that.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Well, I mean, on the thing where, for example, the first section on the fee schedule assignments and building where it says, basically the column that says X-Pex or in-house, we've decided to make the recommendation. I may be premature, but if we go with X-Pex, I mean, how do we describe the new fee? Be basically saying an hourly fee?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said that earlier, but maybe I didn't say it real well. I just, in that column, so I'm drawing on the sheet, so it's getting a little messy, but in that column, instead of TBD, let's just put dollar per hour for now. And again, it'll be one of those, it'll be whatever rate is depending on which certified
Hey, Rob,
individuals.
while we were talking here, I pulled up the Newtown fee schedule. And why don't you guys take a look at that to see if it's something we want to think about adopting, because in essence, our format or our structure is going to be similar to theirs if we hire expat.
Right.
And, the concept of, somebody calls up and says, what's my building permit? And you say, I don't know. It depends on, how many hours they spent. And Newtown's actually looks like they've gone through the process to come up with an amount for some of the same categories that we have. So just take a look at it to see if it's doable.
Yep, will do.
So my understanding is from talking to the folks in Newtown is that they're using Hamilton counties.
Yeah, that was my impression, but I'll check.
I thought they were using XPAC to do a lot of their work.
Yeah, so they are, and so this is where. So I talked to the Don Carroll, who's the like Kelly equivalent for them. He's the head of public works for them, and so they're losing money about $15,000 a year by using Hamilton County's fee structure and paying XPACs to do the work.
Okay, and again, we can change the dollar amounts, but they've got a model there, that gives the people some idea what they're going to pay, if they're going to pull a permit for a project. I'm just a little leery about, and maybe we do something along the lines of saying it's this amount of money unless it exceeds these, the scope, and then it's going to be more.
I don't know. I do like the flow through idea. I do like the flow through concept of let's just get out of, trying to guess on which side it's going to end up on, and saying, it's based on the scope of the project,
And Joe, we would be able essentially to provide the applicant with that number, before they would proceed. I mean, if they didn't like the number or they wanted to, argue the number, I guess, they would know that before they committed to doing the project.
Okay. I mean, again, as long as the applicant has some idea what they're getting into.
Right.
It's not a blank check that they're signing off to.
Yeah. So again, instead of giving flat fees or even some of this other stuff, I just like, there's three different dollar per hour rates that are that XPACs will use. And we publish that. We say, here's what the three different rates are, depending on the scope of the work, complexity of the work, all that kind of stuff. But these rates will be applied. And to Bill's point, you'll get a quote before you actually send in the application that will say, here's what the estimated cost will be for plan review and, inspection and yada, yada, all that kind of stuff. So
the only thing that we might consider, though, and I talked to Eileen about this, is that obviously we're going to incur, when an applicant comes in with a set of plans, and we're going to go through this process of handing them off to XPACs to try and get an estimate as to what that permit is going to be. There's going to be costs involved in just doing that. So I'm thinking that we need a basic application fee that you would have to pay up front before, before we would proceed with handing the plans over to XPACs or whatever else it is we're going to be doing.
A lot of communities do that.
Yeah.
And so to build on that, because that could be part of the zoning review also, right? Because that's another, you could say, it would be part of the initial, when you make an initial application, it's going to have to go through a zoning review and an initial quote. And so you could bundle those together and say it's part of the initial application.
And obviously, the money, if they proceed with, the permit and they go all the way with it, well, that money obviously would be credited toward, whatever the amount of the permit is going to be.
Okay, that's fine. One other question, Rob, can you model some of this stuff out so we know what we're dealing with in the future? Whether we're still incurring a loss for the bill.
Well, yeah. So if we build it the way with the pass through and stuff like that, I think it'll be
Well, let's
less,
model it because we're still gonna have some costs that we're, if we keep
Yes,
an in-house person. So let's understand what we're signing on to as far as future,
right. So,
costs for the building office.
right, and I think that goes back, Joe, to the point you brought up earlier in this meeting about if we can have listed next to these activities, how many times a year are they happening? And Eileen said she could get that. So we can start to understand which one of these activities are we not going to get cost recovery on.
Right.
And we'll end up eating. Okay. Bill's got to go. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of behind the eight ball here too.
so can we, before everyone leaves, can we set up a time to reconnect then next week so that we can try and finalize this and have something to present then to council as a recommendation on the 12th?
Let me check on my calendar.
For
Next,
me, unfortunately, Wednesday and Thursday, I'm out, I'm tied up altogether. I'm off-site on some meetings.
how convenient.
Sure. Yeah.
That's interesting because Wednesday and Thursday don't work very well for me either. What about, well, we don't want to wait till Friday.
No.
So what about Tuesday afternoon?
Tuesday afternoon would be great because I'm going to need that time to do all this follow-up.
Does that give you enough time? Well, I guess,
I'll do my best.
I know you will. Okay, 4? 3,
Yeah,
4?
I'm open. I'm open in the afternoon. So whatever time on the 6th.
Eileen, would 4 be better than 3? Give you another whole another hour?
I can get a lot done in an hour, so sure, I'll take it.
Hey, can we do 4 o'clock
Yeah.
on Thursday? So I can stay away from the market
No.
close.
Joe, I can't do Thursday. Tuesday?
Or Tuesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what we're going with.
Yep.
Right.
Tuesday, April 4th, 4 o'clock.
Tuesday,
Okay,
April
4 o'clock,
6th.
got it.
Oh, sorry, 6th. Yes, thank you. April 6th, Tuesday, April 6th at 4 o'clock, we'll reconnect. And Eileen, that would be great if you can, next step, put in what you think should be the, for the in-house stuff, what we should change that to. And then the numbers about how many activities occur and stuff like that. And then if you get a chance, if you have enough time to mail it out in advance, that'd be wonderful as well.
Yeah.
So we just have a chance to look through it in
Yeah.
advance.
Yeah,
That would be
and
great.
if I have certain pieces done, I'll do what I just did today.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you don't have to wait for the whole thing to be done too. If you have certain sections, yeah,
Exactly.
that'd be great. So.
Okay.
Okay, good. So that will be it. I will go ahead and talk to ICRC to get that on their calendar as well. And once I have the confirmation, I'll let you know, let everyone know, and then get Joni to announce it then. And I will work on draft reports for the 2 stuff that we approved earlier, or 2 things we approved with Chief earlier, and send those to you guys for comments as well.
Cool.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
All right, thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks,
All
Joe.
right.
Bye.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks,
See you guys.
Marcy. Thanks, Eileen.
Good
Yeah,
job,
thank you,
Eileen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you next
All
week.
right. Later, Gators.
Yep.